Isn't it weird that the Trump trade war, so to speak, with China is going to lead to a recession, as all the articles will tell you, and prognosticators on CNBC and whatnot. Yet not one time have I ever heard that tax increases are going to lead to recession. It's just odd. I mean, the idea that consumers are going to lose money to Chinese tariffs, which is true, is recessionary. But how about when consumers lose money to gas taxes? No one, I mean, they're talking about a more federal gas tax. No one ever says that's going to lead to a recession. In fact, the interesting thing is the gas tax doesn't create jobs, but the tariff will make more products built in the United States. Now, you can argue the Bastiat with the Frederick Bastiat, which I'm a huge fan of, way about what is seen and unseen, about how tariffs actually hurt the consumer. And I 100% agree with that. I do, without question. But at some point, we got to deal with the Chinese and their thieving ways. These are communists who are thieving intellectual property from the U.S. They're literally, they're stealing our stuff, and that's hurting our economy. And so if we engage in the battle, at least that could bring some relief to that part of the economy for sure. And if Bastiat will say, so you're seeing the jobs created by the tariffs, but you're not seeing the jobs lost. Well, I don't disagree with that. But I am saying we absolutely know the facts that Chinese are thieving on intellectual property. We know that for a fact. We know that for a fact, and they're using it to harm us as well. So we know these things to be factual. That's not debatable. So a tariff which will increase the cost of Chinese goods by, I think I was reading yesterday, $7 billion. All right, well, that sucks. That sucks. But guess what? That's the war we've got to engage in, because they've been fighting this war for many years, and only now is Trumpster engaging in it. Bush did it, Obama did it, Clinton did it. I guess, again, I don't even know if the first Bush was even privy to what was going on. So we'll just say the bipartisan nature of allowing China to walk all over us has happened for decades. It's just Trump is finally engaging in the battle, which is good. But everyone says it's going to cause recession. I'm like, okay, so now we have Republicans and Democrats alike loving the idea of a gas tax under the auspices that they're going to use that money to increase spending on roads and stuff like that. Yeah, I believe that. I also have a oceanfront property in Arizona to sell to you after I bought it from George Strait. All right, so the issue that, we're going to use this gas tax is going to go solely to, we've heard this a million times. It was actually kind of funny, too, because I'll never forget back in the late 90s or maybe early 2000s. I can't remember. But anyway, there's this big hubbub about banks and their stupid ATM fees. And that they're trying to pass a federal law to regulate how much banks could charge on their stupid ATM fees. And they're saying, this will save consumers, billion, whatever it was. It was insane. It was nuts. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait a second. Whenever there's a middle-class tax cut, i.e. the Bush tax cuts of 2003, or the Bush silliness in terms of a stimulus package where he gave us all a couple $100 back, which, hey, I needed. I took it. I used it. I'll tell you that right now. It's a stupid way to do government incentivizing, but, at least it got out of the government bureaucrats and said, here's $100, here's $200, whatever it was. I can't remember. So anyway, the Democrats are all up in arms about that, say this won't help, and yet the same people were all this huge hubbub about saying we got to regulate the bank's ability to charge ATM fees. It's just, the whole thing is just nuts, man. And I'll never forget that. So the Democrats want to raise sales tax, not just Democrats, Republicans too. They want to raise, this is actually literally bipartisan, not just Democrats, there's Democrats and the ATM fees. But Republicans too. They want to raise the gas tax. They want to do this. They want to raise that tax on this for whatever their pet peeve is or their issue of the day. That won't be recessionary. But to raise the tariffs on Chinese goods in order to battle to keep our intellectual property safe, that is recessionary. Or in order to make it so we actually have a fundamentals change of production, so we actually produce the things we consume domestically. And on top of that, may I add, if you are green, you want to produce economically here in the U.S. That stuff has got to make its way to America somehow. And it isn't doing on solar panels. I'll tell you that right now. It's doing on ships and planes. All right. None of these guys, they might be running on nuclear, but they're certainly not running on PV panels or battery packs. They're not. They're running on good old-fashioned fossil fuel or nuclear. to deliver the goods to the U.S. is a huge transportation cost, a huge purveyor of CO2 in the atmosphere, i.e. increasing the greenhouse gas effect if that's a concern of yours. So if you are a green guy, you want the tariffs because that'll increase production locally, which will mean shipping will be reduced. On top of that, how much will the suppliers, I just read yesterday, a company is because of the tariffs, are opening new jobs here. And I think it was in Tupelo, Mississippi, because they're like, look, man, the tariffs will make it more expensive to deliver goods from China. And so on top of that, the shipping costs are expensive too. So if we can make it in the South, which is where the cheapest labor is in the U.S., we'll do that, save the shipping cost, save the tariff, and we're going to create jobs in the South. Again, the free, quote-unquote, free marketers will say, oh, what is seen and unseen, the Frederick Bastiat. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, Bastiat wasn't dealing with intellectual property thievery or certainly shipping stuff overseas to the effect of greenhouse gases and all that, and just the cost of fuel generally. So I'm all for it. I just always chuckle all these guys, and this is actually why I break with the libertarians, because they're just silly. And like Ayn Rand, I love Ayn Rand, but she's an objectivist. She hated Christianity, that's for sure. And the issue is all about money, and this is where the libertarians, I break from them, because it's always about money, 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 money. That's their number. That's their god, essentially, is money. Now they would say freedom, and I think there is some libertarians who value freedom to some degree, more so than others. But I do think the idea is some libertarians that to be pro-American, pro-nationalistic is somehow a violation of libertarian freedom policies because it hurts your bottom line as a consumer. I don't agree with that at all. I always say at the end of the day, if there's no America, if we can't produce things because it's all done in the libertarian mindset, which is all done overseas at the cheapest labor, that's not good. We have to have domestic production, domestic production of oil, of natural gas, certainly domestic production of steel and iron. All kinds of the large power transmission stations and all that stuff. All that stuff, we need to have more production here, because if we're relying on our best friend, Chinese, who are also stealing our property, not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. And on top of it, there are other alternatives to China too. Vietnam would love to have a stake in this for sure. So I'm not worried about it in the least. I just always chuckle. The recession's coming because of Trump. But the same people are always happy to raise sales taxes, gas taxes, income taxes. It's nuts, man. All right, we'll see you.